Hi, I'm Michael Bezushko. I'm an information literacy librarian here at Kent Library, and today we're just going to talk about evaluating sources. So there's a lot of information out there, and we have to know if it's true. Can we trust it, right? Whether we're doing research or we're just living our lives, how can we find out if information is reliable and accurate? And it doesn't matter if it's coming from a friend, maybe you see something on social media, you read something in the news. Could be a book, could be on a website. Maybe you're reading an academic journal. You still want to make sure it's reliable and do your homework, do your due diligence, and see what's up. So, how can we know if these things are true? Well, one thing we promote is the SIFT method here at the library, which is just an acronym. It's just things to remember when you spot new information. So the first part of the SIFT method, the S, stands for stop and think before you accept something as a fact, which we think, well, we're all going to do this, we're adults and we're going to stop and we're going to think about it. But if we get really excited, maybe we see something and it proves something that we already believe, and we get very excited about it and we're going to use that. Before we use that information to prove our belief, let's investigate it. Let's see if it's reliable, because otherwise it's going to make us look silly, right? So the I, investigate the source. So there's a few things to keep in mind here. Where did this information come from, right? When did it happen? Did it just happen? Did it happen a long time ago? Sometimes I'm on YouTube. I say, oh, look, there's an update for maybe a game I like to play. And I say, oh, this video came out 8 months ago. How's that popping up now? Check that time code. Make sure it's timely. Make sure it's up to date. Who wrote this? Are they an expert? Are they an authority on the subject? There's the word authority right there. So sometimes I'll see an interview with somebody that I really like, maybe a musician or something, and they're talking and I'm listening, and then I realize they're talking about the economy or something. And I think, well, they're a musician. They should be telling me about music. They're not an authority on the economy. So I'm going to be a little bit skeptical. I'm going to look into what they say. And a bias. Does the person who published this information, do they have a reason they want me to be reading this information? Are they trying to get me to do something, right? Find better coverage. So credibility. Maybe an article isn't credible. Maybe a Wikipedia article. There's a lot of information there, but it's not credible, right? You don't know who published that. But there are a lot of footnotes on Wikipedia, and maybe you could go through those and go through some links and find something that is credible. The better the credibility, the better the publication, the better your research is going to be, the more knowledgeable you'll be. So keep searching, keep trying to find the best version of that information. And trace claims to their original context. So go back, find out where that information originally came from. So let's look at an example. Maybe a friend tells you something and you say, oh, that's kind of interesting, but where'd you hear that? They say, oh, I saw it on Facebook. I say, okay, can you show me where you saw that? They say, yeah, see? You say, well, who posted this? What account is this? It's some account called The Big Snap. Who runs that? I don't know, they say. Well, let's look them up. Let's go on Google. Let's try to find out who these people are. They just post a lot of gossip, really. Do they have any sources? Where are they getting this information? Our friend says, what do you mean? So where do they get this information? They say, I'm not really sure. Well, let's see here. They don't have any sources. I can't verify this information anywhere else. I go online, I look it up. I can't see anyone else who posted this. And it's only published in this place on social media where it can be monetized, right? They get tens of thousands of clicks on everything they post because it's pretty engaging. It results in people telling other people about it, but there's obviously a business model there. So I can't find any other sources. I can't find this information anywhere credible. I'm going to say it's a bad source. All right, what about we're on social media and we see this article here, amazing, a cow hits a home run. Well, let's once again, who posted this? It's an account called CMM. Oh, what is that? I don't know, their logo looks like CNN, the news site. I think it's clickbait. Well, let's search online for cow home run, right? It's pretty wild story. Somebody else has probably covered it. Also, does the article show up anywhere else? Oh, here's an article from ABC News about the picture, and they say it's made with AI. Well, how do they know it's AI? They have an expert explaining how you can tell. Well, it sounds pretty good, but who is this expert? I want to make sure. Go back to that original source. Who's this person? Well, he's an AI artist who makes similar images for work. Okay, so he uses the technology in a similar way, so he knows a lot about how it works, but he's not trying to cover up what he's doing. He says he's making AI images. These people haven't said that this is an AI image. So it appears to mislead people with the branding, right? It wants to look like a legitimate site. Other news sources are saying it's not real, and they got an expert on board who seems pretty knowledgeable about it, and he says it's not real either. So I'm going to say it's a bad source. All right, what about this one? We're reading the news, and the headline is, this governor says he's banning omelets. Well, that's no good. I like an omelet. So I said, that can't be real. A governor can't ban omelets. Well, let's look into it. They say it's from a news site. It's a real news site. Let's read it and make sure. Okay, once we dig in a little, he's not banning omelets. He's just kind of passing a bill that's going to raise egg prices, so it might be harder to get an omelet. Well, why wouldn't they just say that, right? Why go with this headline? Let's look up the news site, see if they have any biases. Okay, so they have a bit of a slant. Maybe they just don't like this governor, so they use this headline to make him look bad. But when you really look into it, it's not exactly the same thing. So it does include these real quotes from an interview about these egg prices, but maybe they don't publish the interview in full. They kind of cover a few things up. They appear to have some political bias in the past. I'm going to say it's a misleading source. It's not wrong once you dig into the article. It's a little misleading, though. All right, let's say we're looking at this book here. Somebody says, I think we should go to Australia for our vacation. They say, why? Well, this book makes Australia sound great. Well, who's Mr. Travel Expert? Who's this author here? Well, he's written books about dozens of countries. He travels everywhere. Okay. Well, he does seem to know a lot about Australia, but what if he just tells you to go to the places that give him money? So a restaurant says, yeah, here, take some money and tell people about our restaurant in your book. Now, look, he has a whole section about how he travels undercover, so he gets the same service we would. All right. So that's pretty cool. I can't totally trust that, right? I mean, I don't know this guy. I don't know that he hasn't taken the money, but the author does seem knowledgeable on the subject. They're pretty transparent about their methodology, how they're doing these things, and they're aware that there could be potential conflicts of interest, and they're trying to address that. So I'm going to say it's a pretty good source, right? We can't know for sure that they didn't take the money, but they're not trying to hide that might be a possibility. They're trying to address that up front. So that's pretty good. All right, let's say we're on a website here. They say, do you know that snow can make you really sick? Well, that doesn't sound right exactly. Now look at this site, tells you about it. Cold places are bad for you, hot places are good. It's an official organization, it's a .org. Well, who created this organization? Well, I'm not sure. Let's do a quick search online for the No More Snow organization. Okay. Well, the people who made it own beach resorts, so they own property in hot places. I'm a little skeptical. They're trying to attempt a change in your behavior, right? And they're saying, well, you shouldn't go to cold places. You should probably go to more hot places, which they own. They don't really give legitimate evidence for their snow claims, and they're very not transparent. Unlike the person who is writing the book, they're kind of trying to hide the fact that they own these places, or at least they're not saying they own places in warm climates. So I'm saying that's a bad source. And our last one here. Let's say we look at a journal article. So this is an academic journal article about the effects of television on young ants. I just read an article about how ants prefer daytime soap operas to cartoons. Where was that published? Ant Studies. It's a journal. It's been publishing ant-related articles for 60 years. Okay, who wrote the article? Ant researcher is highly respected. Look how many times she's been cited. She's been writing about ants her entire life. Okay, yeah, she seems pretty credible. She's got a good background for this stuff. But why would she do this study? Does she have any reason to promote daytime soap operas? Maybe she's just saying we should watch more daytime soap operas. No, she actually said in an interview she doesn't like soap operas or cartoons. That's why she chose those two, because she didn't want to be biased. So we have a researcher here who doesn't appear to influence the reader. She's not trying to get you to do one thing or the other. She's just doing her ant research. It's got a credible journal that published it, so they have a history of accuracy. They don't want to ruin their reputation by publishing a bad research article. And it's a credible researcher with solid methodology. Perfect. I'm going to say that's a good source. So these have been some pretty silly examples, but hopefully you can kind of see the thought process, how you might go into this. Stop and think before you accept something as a fact. Investigate the source. When did it get published? Is the person an authority? Do they have a bias? Is there some reason they're trying to get me to believe something? Find better coverage. Maybe you see something in the news, see if you can trace it back to an actual academic article and find out who published that article. Trace the claims to their original context, as we've talked about. So basically, you ask a few questions. Whatever information you hear, say, who wrote and published this? Who is this person? Do I believe them? Why should I believe them? Are they an expert on this subject? How might they benefit from this? And if they do benefit a little bit, maybe that's fine, right? Maybe they're promoting a book that they wrote, but maybe the book is really credible. But just think about that. Do they have some ulterior motive? And do they acknowledge any bias or benefits they stand to gain, like we just talked about? So hopefully that gives you a few things to think about when you engage in research information. If you have any more questions about this stuff, feel free to get in touch with librarians. There's an Ask Us button on the library website in the upper right. And if you click it, it gives plenty of ways to get in touch with librarians. We're usually at the front desk, so you can come in person. You can email us or call the library if you have questions about these things. That's everything I've got for you today. Have fun researching.